My
the
name
people
is
who gave you
Elvia
life are
Green,
the
and
same
I'm
ones who try
about
to
to
erase
walk
it.
into my
Before we dive
sister's
in, I want to
wedding
know where
with
are you watching
evidence
from?
that could
Have you ever had to
destroy
fight for
my
your place?
entire family. It's been 10 years since they erased me from their lives. No phone calls, no birthday cards, not even a text on Thanksgiving. They didn't need to say goodbye. They just made me invisible. And for a long time, I let them. But today, June 18th, 2023, as I sit in my car outside Carlton House in Newport, staring at the cream-colored wedding invitation in my lap, I'm no longer that scared 17-year-old girl who believed she deserved the silence. I'm 27 now. I have a career, a life, and most importantly, I have the truth. The invitation reads, "Celine Green and Zachary Morrison cordially invite you." My sister's name in elegant calligraphy. The man she's marrying? Someone who once humiliated me so badly I stopped believing in my own dreams. I'm Elvia Green. My mother is Dr. Kellyanne Green, a respected physician and medical director. My father, Ishmael Green, is a corporate attorney who chose silence over defending his daughter. My sister Soline is 3 years older than me, beautiful, accomplished, and the architect of my destruction. And Uncle Gerald? He's my father's younger brother, the only person in this family who ever showed me genuine kindness. If you're listening from somewhere far away, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this has traveled. And please, stay with me until the end. Because what happened to me, what they did to me, it's not just my story. It's a story about what happens when family becomes your greatest enemy, and how you survive when the people who should protect you become the ones you need protection from. Let me take you back to where it all began. September 2015. I was 17, just starting my senior year of high school. That Sunday morning started like any other. I was in the kitchen with Uncle Gerald, helping him make breakfast. He'd stayed over the night before. He often did on weekends. Uncle Gerald was different from the rest of the Greens. While my mother measured worth in achievements and my father measured it in silence, Uncle Gerald measured it in moments. Small kindnesses, a joke when I was sad, an extra pancake when no one was looking. "You're getting good at these," he said, watching me flip a pancake. "College is going to miss your breakfast skills." I laughed. I'd just been accepted to the University of Vermont. It wasn't Harvard, where Soline had gone, but it was mine. My escape route. "Uncle Gerald, do you think—" "Elvia!" My mother's voice cut through the kitchen warmth like a blade of ice. "Come upstairs. Now." Uncle Gerald's spatula paused mid-air. We exchanged glances. My mother's voice had that tone, the one that meant someone was in trouble. I climbed the stairs slowly, my heart beginning to beat faster without knowing why. When I reached my parents' bedroom, I found my mother standing by her jewelry box, her face composed but her eyes sharp as broken glass. "Close the door," she said. I did. "My necklace is missing." The pearl necklace. The family heirloom. The one my mother only wore on special occasions, passed down from her grandmother. I'd seen it 1,000 times, nestled in its velvet box like a small moon. I don't understand," I said. "What do you mean, missing?" "I mean, it's not here." She gestured to the open jewelry box with the precision of a surgeon pointing to a wound. "It was here yesterday morning. Now it's gone. You were the only one home last night." My stomach dropped. "Mom, I didn't—" "You were the only one home," she repeated, each word deliberate. "And I've noticed you have a habit of going into rooms that don't belong to you." "I didn't go in your room," I said, my voice rising with panic. "I was downstairs all evening. I was studying in the living room, then I went to bed. Celine said she saw you coming out of my room yesterday afternoon." The air left my lungs. Soline. I tried to think. Yesterday afternoon. I came in to unplug the hairdryer. Celine left it on. You always tell us to check before we leave the house because of fire hazards. I was just— "So you admit you were in my room?" "To unplug the dryer! That's all!" My mother's expression didn't change. She didn't need proof. She only needed an excuse to confirm what she'd apparently always believed about me, that I was a mistake. "Mom, please, I didn't take your necklace. I would never—" "Elvia." My father appeared in the doorway. "Ishmael Green, Esquire. defender of corporations, silent observer of his daughter's destruction. Your mother is very upset. If you know anything about the necklace, now would be the time to tell us. I don't know anything. Tears were starting to form, hot and desperate. I didn't take it! Then where is it? My mother's voice was so calm, it was terrifying. If you didn't take it, who did? Before I could answer, Celine appeared behind my father. Her blonde hair was perfect, pulled back in a ponytail. She was wearing her Columbia sweatshirt, the one she wore when she wanted to remind everyone she'd graduated from an Ivy League school. She crossed her arms on the doorframe, her expression unreadable. I'm sorry, Celine said, looking at our parents, not at me. I didn't want to say anything, but I did see her in Mom's room yesterday morning, too, earlier than the hairdryer thing. The room tilted. What?
My name
I
is Renata
whispered.
Martinez, and this is
I
the
came
story of how I
upstairs
learned
to
that
grab my
sometimes the people
laptop.
who gave you life are the
Celine
same
continued,
ones who
her
try to
voice
erase it.
soft, almost reluctant. And I saw you coming out of Mom's room. You looked startled when you saw me. That's not true, I shouted. I wasn't in there yesterday morning. I tried to remember. Sunday morning. I'd woken up late, gone straight to the kitchen. I was helping Uncle Gerald with breakfast. Uncle Gerald was at the store getting eggs until 9:30, my father said quietly. You were alone in the house for at least an hour. I looked at Celine, really looked at her. There was something in her eyes, a glint I'd seen before but never understood. Not anger, not sadness, satisfaction. And that's when I knew. She was lying, deliberately, carefully, and she was enjoying it. Celine, I said, my voice breaking. Why are you doing this? She blinked, and for just a second, I saw it. A flash of something cruel. Then her face rearranged itself into concern. Elle, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm just telling them what I saw. Maybe you borrowed it and forgot to put it back? Maybe this is all just a misunderstanding. Her words were kind. Her tone was sympathetic. But her eyes were celebrating. I didn't borrow it, I said, looking at my mother. I didn't take it. I didn't even know it was missing. My mother closed the jewelry box with a soft click. Until this is resolved, I think it's best if you keep your distance from family activities. You should feel ashamed, and you need to think about what you've done. But I didn't do anything. That's enough. My father's voice was firm, but not cruel. Just final. Go to your room. I looked at each of them. My mother's cold certainty. My father's weak compliance. Celine's perfect mask of concern. I left the room. Behind me, I heard my mother say, I knew she had boundary issues, but I never thought she'd actually steal. That was the day I learned that truth doesn't matter when someone has already decided you're guilty. The isolation didn't happen all at once. It was gradual, like slowly turning down the volume on my existence. The first week, I still ate dinner with the family, but no one spoke to me. Conversations flowed around me like I was a stone in a stream. Celine would talk about her work at the Green Wellness Foundation, the family's charitable organization that my mother had founded. My father would discuss his cases. My mother would mention upcoming social events. I would sit in silence, pushing food around my plate. The second week, my mother suggested I eat in the kitchen so the tension doesn't disturb everyone's digestion. I started taking my meals after everyone else had finished, eating alone at the kitchen counter while I could hear them laughing in the dining room. By the third week, I'd been moved to the basement bedroom. Until this situation is resolved, my father explained, not meeting my eyes. The basement wasn't terrible. It had a small window, a bed, a desk, but it was separated from the rest of the house by a thick door that seemed to symbolize exactly how far I'd fallen. I became a ghost in my own home. Some mornings I'd wake up and wonder if they'd notice if I just disappeared entirely. Then I'd remember. They were already acting like I had. Uncle Gerald was the only one who still treated me like a person. He'd leave food outside my basement door, sandwiches with notes like, "Hang in there, kid," or "This won't last forever." He'd text me articles he thought I'd find interesting. Once, when everyone else was out, he came downstairs and just sat with me while I cried. Your mother, he said carefully. She's not always been like this. After you were born, after the doctors told her she couldn't have any more children, something changed. She saw it as a weakness, and I think sometimes she looks at you and sees that moment of vulnerability she can't forgive herself for. That's not my fault, I whispered. No, he agreed. It's not, but hurt people, Elvia, and your mother is very, very hurt. I didn't understand then. I just knew that I was paying for something I didn't do. For reasons I couldn't comprehend, school became my sanctuary. For 7 hours a day, I could pretend I had a normal life. My friends knew something was wrong, but I couldn't explain it. How do you tell people that your own family has decided you don't exist? Then came Christmas. I could hear them upstairs, laughter, music, the sound of wrapping paper. I'd been told I was welcome to join, but that I might be more comfortable staying downstairs. The message was clear. Around 10 p.m., curiosity and loneliness got the better of me. I crept upstairs just to see, just to feel like I was part of something. I stood in the hallway looking into the living room. The Christmas tree was beautiful, covered in lights. Celine was opening a present from my mother. It was a necklace. Not the pearl one, something new. Something more expensive, with diamonds catching the light. Because my daughter deserves the best, my mother said, clasping it around Celine's neck. Celine caught sight of me in the hallway. For just a moment our eyes met. She smiled. Not a warm smile, a knowing one. The necklace had never been about the necklace. It had been about creating a reason to cast me out, and Celine had given them that reason. I went back downstairs and cried until I couldn't breathe. The old necklace was never mentioned again. It was as if it, and the accusation, had served its purpose and could now be forgotten. Except by me, the only one still living with the consequences. I made it through graduation. My parents came to the ceremony but left immediately after. No photos, no dinner. Celine didn't come at all. She was busy with work. In the fall, I packed for the University of Vermont. My mother gave me a check for the first semester's tuition. After this, you'll need to manage on your own, she said. It's time you learned to be independent. My father drove me to campus. The 2-hour drive was mostly silent. As we pulled up to my dorm, he finally spoke. I know this has been hard, he said, still not looking at me. But families go through difficult times. Maybe some distance will help. Dad, I said, I didn't take that necklace. He sighed. Elvia, whether you did or didn't isn't really the point anymore, is it? What is the point then? The point is moving forward, making better choices. I got out of the car and pulled my suitcase from the trunk. He didn't help. He didn't hug me goodbye. He just said, good luck, and drove away. I stood there in the parking lot, watching his car disappear, and realized I was free. Maybe not in the way I'd wanted, but I was free. The University of Vermont felt like stepping into a different world, a world where no one knew I was the girl who stole from her mother, a world where I could start fresh. My roommate was Sophie Bennett, a bubbly girl from Maine with red hair and more energy than any human should possess before noon. She talked constantly about her high school, her boyfriend back home, her plans to major in environmental science. It was exhausting and wonderful. For the first time in a year, I felt normal. I threw myself into my studies. I'd always been interested in psychology, maybe because I'd spent so much time trying to understand why people hurt each other. My classes were challenging but fascinating. I made friends. I joined a research group studying adolescent resilience. I didn't talk about my family. When people asked, I said, "We're not super close," and changed the subject. Sophie eventually stopped asking, which I appreciated. For 6 weeks, I was happy. Genuinely, simply happy. Then came October 12th, 2016. I was in my room studying for a midterm when Sophie burst through the door. Her face was pale. Elvia, she said, you need to see this. She shoved her phone at me. On the screen was a blog post. The title read, The Real Elvia Green, a Case Study in Manipulation. My hands started shaking. The post was detailed, viciously detailed. It claimed I had faked illnesses in high school to get better grades, that I'd stolen ideas from classmates for presentations, that I'd manipulated teachers with sob stories, and of course, that I'd stolen valuable jewelry from my own mother and denied it. There were no photos of me, but there were enough details that anyone who knew me would recognize the story. The writer called me a cautionary tale about people who lie so well they believe their own delusions.
Are the same ones who try to erase
The
it.
blog was
Before we dive in, I
anonymous,
want to know where
but
you're
I
watching
knew
from.
immediately
Have you ever
who
had to fight
had
for your
written it.
place?
Solene. The writing style, clinical, precise, with that subtle condescension Solene had perfected. The details only someone in my family would know. The timing, right when I was starting to rebuild. Is any of this true? Sophie asked carefully. No, I said. My voice sounded distant, like it was coming from underwater. None of it's true. But I could see the doubt in her eyes. The blog was so detailed, so confident. Why would someone make all this up? Over the next 2 weeks, the blog spread. Someone had posted it to the UVM Reddit page, then to Facebook groups. People I'd never met were debating whether I was a sociopath or just troubled. Professors who'd been warm toward me became cautious. Study group invitations dried up. In the dining hall, I'd see people whisper when I walked by. I called home. My mother answered. Mom, someone posted lies about me online. Terrible lies. About the necklace and… Elvia, if someone felt the need to write about your behavior, perhaps that should tell you something. It's not true. None of it's true. It's Solene, I know it is. Your sister is a respected professional. She would never engage in something so petty. Perhaps you should focus less on blaming others and more on examining your own actions. I haven't done anything wrong. Then you have nothing to worry about, do you? My mother's voice was cool, clinical. Don't call again unless you're ready to take responsibility for your choices. She hung up. I contacted the university administration. I met with my academic advisor, Dr. Rebecca Winters, a kind woman in her 50s who actually listened. This is clearly defamatory, she said, reading the blog. But it's anonymous, which makes it hard to address. Have you considered hiring an attorney? I don't have money for an attorney. She nodded sympathetically. The university can't take official action based on an anonymous blog. But I want you to know that I believe you, Elvia, and this will pass. It didn't pass. In December, I received a letter from the financial aid office. My scholarship, the one I'd earned through 6 months of community psychology research, was being re-evaluated due to character concerns. I met with the scholarship committee. They were polite but firm. Miss Green, we've received some troubling information about your conduct, the committee chair said. While we can't verify these claims, scholarship recipients are expected to maintain not just academic standards, but ethical ones. But I haven't done anything unethical, I said, hating how desperate I sounded. Someone is lying about me. Someone is trying to destroy me. Do you know who? I think it's my sister, but I can't prove it. The committee members exchanged glances. I could see what they were thinking. Family drama. Unreliable narrator. Too much risk. We'll need to pause your scholarship funding pending further review, the chair said. I lost $12,000 in scholarship money. Just like that. I couldn't afford to drop out, so I did what I had to do. I worked. 3 part-time jobs. Coffee shop in the morning. Library desk in the afternoon. Tutoring in the evening. I lived on instant ramen and instant coffee. I studied in the library until they kicked me out. I stopped sleeping more than 4 hours a night. I stopped calling my family. There was no point. Uncle Gerald texted occasionally, but even he seemed to be pulling away, probably under pressure from my mother. On my 18th birthday, February 3rd, 2017, I waited for a card, a text, anything. Nothing came. I bought myself a cupcake from the grocery store and ate it alone in my dorm room while Sophie was out at a party she hadn't invited me to. That night, I started writing. Not a diary, a document, a record. Every detail I could remember about the necklace incident, about Solene's lies, about my mother's coldness. I saved it all in a folder labeled The Truth. I didn't know what I'd ever do with it. I just knew I needed to write it down before I started believing their version of reality. 6 years later. I graduated in May 2020, in the middle of the COVID pandemic. There was no ceremony, just a digital degree uploaded to a portal. GPA 3.7. No honors, no awards, no family congratulations. I moved to Providence and got a job at a community mental health center. The pay was terrible, $42,000 a year, but the work mattered. I counseled teenagers from broken homes, kids who'd been failed by the people who were supposed to protect them. I saw myself in every one of them. In the evenings, I worked on research. I wanted to understand trauma, resilience, how people survived when their families destroyed them. I read everything I could find. I started writing my own paper, Self-Recovery Behaviors in Adolescents from Dysfunctional Families. It took me 8 months to write. Every evening after work, I'd sit in my tiny studio apartment and pour everything I'd learned, from research and from experience, into that paper. It was brilliant. I knew it was brilliant. It was my story, transformed into something that could help others. I submitted it to journals, but without a PhD, without institutional backing, I got rejection after rejection. Interesting work, but we're looking for authors with more established credentials. I saved it on my computer and kept working at the center. 6 years passed. 6 years of silence from my family. 6 years of building a life from nothing. I told myself I was over it. I told myself I'd moved on. Then, in March 2023, everything changed. I was at a coffee shop meeting Dylan Hayes, an old friend from UVM who'd recently moved to Providence for work. He was a forensic accountant now, investigating financial crimes for a mid-size firm. God, Elvia, it's been what, 5 years? Dylan grinned. He'd been one of the few people at UVM who'd stayed friendly after the blog incident. You look good. Tired, but good. We caught up. I told him about the mental health center. He told me about his work. It's mostly corporate fraud, he said, following money trails, finding where things don't add up. It's actually pretty interesting if you're a numbers nerd like me. Sounds complicated. It is. But you'd be surprised how often the fraud is right there in plain sight. People just don't look closely enough. We talked for 2 hours. As we were leaving, he said, Hey, if you ever need help with anything, legal stuff, financial stuff, let me know. I owe you for those psychology study guides you let me use sophomore year. I laughed. I'll keep that in mind. A week later, my coworker forwarded me an email with the subject line, Thought you might find this interesting. Attached was a PDF of an article from Wellness Frontiers Journal. The title, Self-Recovery Behaviors in Psychologically Traumatized Youth. Author, Solene Green, M.A. My vision blurred. I opened the PDF with shaking hands. The abstract, the methodology, the case studies, different from mine, but the framework. The framework was exactly what I'd written. She'd taken my work, not copied it word for word. That would be too obvious. She'd done something more sophisticated. She'd taken my theoretical framework, my insights, my 8 months of work, and dressed it up with new examples. Different references, just different enough to pass a plagiarism checker. But it was mine. The core ideas, the structure, the conclusions, all mine. I sat there in my office staring at the screen, remembering. November 2021. Solene had called me, for the first time in years. Elle, it's me. I'd almost hung up, but curiosity and a pathetic, desperate hope made me answer. What do you want? I want to talk, to make things right. I know it's been a long time, but I've been thinking about what happened with the necklace, and I think maybe we all overreacted. Overreacted? My voice was cold. You lied, Solene. You destroyed my life. I was young. I was jealous. I'm sorry. She sounded sincere. Can we at least try? I'm thinking about a career change, maybe into mental health. I'd love to hear about your work. I should have said no. I should have hung up. But I was so lonely, so tired of being alone. So I said yes. She came to Providence. We had coffee. She asked about my job, my research. She seemed genuinely interested. Can I see some of your work? She asked. I'd love to understand how you approach these topics. I showed her. I showed her everything. My computer, my files, my unpublished research. I even showed her my paper. This is amazing, Elle, she said, reading through it. You should publish this. You really should. She hugged me when she left. I'm proud of you, she whispered. I'd believed her. And now here I was, staring at my own work published under her name. I grabbed my phone and called Dylan. Hey, remember how you said if I needed help with anything legal or financial, I should let you know? Yeah? I need your help, and I think this is going to get complicated. Dylan arrived at my apartment 40 minutes later with his laptop and a legal pad. He'd always been the kind of person who took things seriously. Maybe that's why we'd stayed friends when others hadn't. Okay, he said, settling onto my couch. Show me everything. I pulled up my original document, the one I'd written in 2022, time-stamped and saved in multiple locations. Then I showed him Celine's published article. Dylan read both carefully, making notes. His expression grew darker with each paragraph. This is sophisticated plagiarism, he said finally. She didn't copy-paste. She took your framework, your theoretical insights, and repackaged them. Different case studies, different references, but the intellectual property? That's yours. Can I prove it? Maybe. You have timestamps on your original file. Do you have any emails where you discussed this work with anyone before her article was published? I thought back. Dr. Winters, my old advisor. I sent her a draft in June 2022 asking for feedback. Perfect. Forward me that email chain. Dylan made another note. What about Celine? Do you have any communication with her from when she visited? I searched my email. There it was. A thread from November 2021 from Celine Green. Subject: Thank you, Elle. It was so good to see you yesterday. Your work is truly inspiring. I meant what I said. You should really try to publish that research. The world needs to hear your insights. Love, S. Dylan's eyebrows rose. She thanked you for showing her your work and encouraged you to publish. Then she published it herself a year later. He shook his head. That's cold. That's Celine. Here's what we're going to do, Dylan said, pulling out his laptop. I'm going to help you build a case for intellectual theft. But first, let me do some background research on your sister and your family's foundation. Sometimes financial fraud and academic fraud run together. You think there's more? I think people who steal one thing often steal others. He started typing. What's the name of the foundation again? Green Wellness Foundation. My mother founded it about 15 years ago. Celine's been the program director for the past 5 years. Dylan's fingers flew across the keyboard. Okay, I'm pulling their public filings. All nonprofits have to disclose certain financial information. Let's see what we can find. I made coffee while he worked. The apartment was quiet except for the clicking of keys and the occasional grunt from Dylan. After about 20 minutes, he went very still. Elvia. Something in his voice made my stomach drop. What? Come look at this. I walked over and looked at his screen. He'd pulled up the Green Wellness Foundation's Form 990, the tax document nonprofits file publicly. Look at the consultant payments section, he said, pointing to a line item. Research consultant, Elvia E. Green, $42,500, 2022. I stared at the screen. I've never been a consultant for them. Dylan scrolled up. It's not just 2022. He showed me previous years. 2021, $38,000. 2020, $31,000. 2019, $15,500. My hands started shaking. That's $127,000. In payments made to someone with your name for consulting services you never provided. Dylan's voice was grim. This is fraud, Elvia. They're using your name and your social security number to legitimize fake expenses. But why? Why would they? Let me check something. He opened another window, typing rapidly. I'm accessing business registration databases. Okay, here. SEG Services LLC, registered in Delaware, 2019. The managing member is listed as S.E. Green. Celine Elaine Green, I whispered. Exactly. The money that's supposedly going to you, it's actually being funneled through this LLC that Celine controls. This is money laundering, Elvia. They're using the foundation as a vehicle to move money into Celine's pockets, and they're using your identity to do it. I sat down heavily. They've been stealing from the foundation using my name. And if anyone ever investigated, your name would be on the paperwork. You'd be the one who looked guilty. Dylan's jaw tightened. We need to report this. This is federal fraud. Wait. My mind was racing. If they've been doing this since 2019, Dylan, my grandfather died in 2014. He had money, a lot of money, and I never got anything from his estate. Dylan looked at me sharply. You were supposed to inherit? I don't know, but he always said, he used to tell me I was his favorite, that he'd make sure I could go to college without debt. I felt tears building. After he died, I asked my mother about it. She said he'd left everything to her and she'd handle my education. Then she gave me 1 semester of tuition and cut me off. Do you know who administered the estate? Morrison and Associates. They were his lawyers. Dylan was already typing. Let me make some calls. I have a friend who works in estate law. If there was a will, it should be on record. 3 days later, Dylan came back to my apartment. His expression told me everything before he even opened his mouth. Sit down, he said. I sat. I got a copy of your grandfather's will, both versions. Both? The original from 2012 and the revised version from November 2014, a month before he died. Dylan pulled out printed documents. In the 2012 will, your grandfather left his estate, valued at approximately $800,000, divided as follows: 40% to your mother Kellyanne, 30% to your father Ishmael, and 30% to an education trust specifically for you. That would have been $240,000, Elvia. The room spun. $250,000. Enough for college, graduate school, enough to start a life without drowning in debt. What happened? Dylan laid out the revised will. In November 2014, when your grandfather was in hospice, dying of pancreatic cancer, the will was changed. Your portion was removed entirely. The reason listed is... No, he paused. No verified blood relation. I couldn't breathe. What? There's a DNA test attached to the revised will, from Gene Test Solutions, dated October 2014. It states that genetic testing showed you were not biologically related to the Green family line. That's impossible. I look exactly like my father. I have his eyes, his... I know, because the test is fake. Dylan pulled out another document. Gene Test Solutions was shut down in 2018 by the State Medical Board for falsifying laboratory results. Multiple families came forward with evidence that the company was producing fraudulent DNA tests for a fee. The owner, Dr. Martin Blackwell, lost his medical license and served 18 months in prison. Dr. Blackwell. The name sounded familiar. He was a college friend of your mother's. They went to medical school together. Dylan's voice was gentle but firm. Your mother paid to have a fake DNA test created so she could remove you from your grandfather's will. The pieces were falling into place, sharp and cruel. The necklace, I said slowly. It went missing in September 2015, but grandfather died in December 2014. The will was changed in November 2014. I looked up at Dylan. She needed to discredit me before he died. She needed a reason to claim I wasn't really family. I think so, yes. But why? Why would she? My voice broke. I'm her daughter. Dylan sat beside me. I don't know why, Elvia. But what I do know is this constitutes fraud on multiple levels. The fake DNA test, the stolen inheritance, using your identity for foundation fraud, this is serious criminal activity. I stared at the documents in my hands. My whole life, I'd thought I was the problem. I'd thought if I could just be better, work harder, prove myself, they'd love me again. But they'd never stopped loving me because they'd never loved me at all. To them, I was just an obstacle, a name to be exploited, a person to be erased. What do I do? I whispered. Dylan was quiet for a moment. We could go to the police, to the FBI. This crosses state lines. We could expose all of this. But legal cases take years, and there's no guarantee of justice. Your mother is a respected doctor. Your family has money for expensive lawyers. You'd be entering a war, Elvia. I thought about it. Years of court battles, depositions, my name dragged through more mud. Even if I won, what would I win? Money? An apology? I don't want to spend years fighting them, I said. I just want the truth to come out. I want people to know what they did. Then we wait, Dylan said. We gather everything we can, and when the time is right, when we have the most impact, we reveal it all at once. When would that be? Dylan smiled grimly. That depends. Do you have any big family events coming up? Weddings? Reunions? Times when their reputation matters most? As if on cue, my phone buzzed. A notification from my email. I picked it up and my heart stopped. The sender, Solene Green. The subject line, you're invited. I opened the email with shaking hands. Dear Elvia, I know we haven't spoken much over the years, but I wanted to personally invite you to my wedding. Zachary and I would be honored if you'd join us on June 18th at Carlton House in Newport. I know things between us have been complicated, but you're my sister, and I want you there. Please RSVP by May 1st. Love, Solene. Attached was a formal invitation. Cream paper, gold trim, elegant calligraphy. Solene Green and Zachary Morrison. Zachary Morrison. The name hit me like a fist. No, I breathed. No, no, no. What? Dylan leaned over to look at my phone. Who's Zachary Morrison? I pulled up my laptop, hands shaking, and found my old files from 2018. There, a program from the Social Impact Startup Summit in Boston. In 2018, I tried to pitch a project, I said, my voice hollow. It was a community mental health initiative. I'd spent 6
My name
months
is Renata
developing
Martinez,
it.
and this is the
It was
story
my
of how I
chance
learned
to
that
get
sometimes the
funding,
people who
to
gave you life
actually
are the
make a
same
difference.
ones who try to
I
erase
found
it.
the video I'd saved. Me, 22 years old, standing on a stage in front of a panel of investors, my voice shaking but determined as I explained my project. Then the camera panned to the judges. One of them was a young man in an expensive suit, handsome, confident, and utterly dismissive. Zachary Morrison, CFO of Morrison Health Investments. I clicked to the part where he spoke. Interesting concept, he said, his tone making it clear he found it anything but interesting. But maybe take a finance class before wasting investors' time with half-baked ideas. This is the real world, sweetheart, not a college term paper. The audience had laughed. I'd left the stage in tears. I never pitched an idea again. He destroyed me, I told Dylan, in front of everyone, and now he's marrying my sister. Dylan was very quiet. Did you ever tell Solene about this? I closed my eyes, remembering November 2021. Coffee with Solene. I'd told her everything about my job, my struggles, my dreams. And yes, I'd told her about the summit, about Zachary Morrison and how his words had crushed something in me. She knows, I said. She knows exactly who he is and what he did to me. And she's marrying him anyway. And inviting me to watch. Dylan read the email again. This isn't an olive branch. This is a power play. She wants you there to see her win, to see her marry the man who humiliated you, while she's published your work under her name, while she's stolen your inheritance, while she's living the life that should have been mine, I finished. We sat in silence. Finally, Dylan spoke. Are you going to go? I thought about it. The smart thing would be to stay away, to avoid the pain, the humiliation, the reminder of everything they'd taken from me. But then I thought about something else. I thought about Solene standing at that altar, basking in admiration, surrounded by people who thought she was brilliant and accomplished and good. I thought about my mother playing the proud parent, collecting compliments about her perfect daughter. I thought about all the lies they'd told, all the lives they'd destroyed, all the ways they'd rewritten history to make themselves the heroes and me the villain. And I thought, what if they had to face the truth? What if, just for one moment, they had to stand in front of everyone and answer for what they'd done? I'm going, I said. Dylan nodded slowly. Then we need to prepare. If you're going to do this, we need to do it right. The next 6 weeks were a blur of investigation and documentation. Dylan worked his network of forensic accountants, lawyers, and investigators. He got copies of everything: the Foundation's financial records, the fake DNA test, the falsified will, email threads between Solene and the journal that published her article. I went through my own files, creating a timeline of every interaction, every lie, every piece of evidence. We discovered more than I'd imagined. Dylan found a former nurse from Harbor Wellness Clinic, Marianne Hart, who'd worked with Celine during her brief internship in 2019. Marianne agreed to speak with us over coffee. "I've waited years to tell someone about this," Marianne said, stirring her tea with shaking hands. "There was an incident. A 7-year-old boy. Celine prescribed the wrong dosage of medication, 10 times what it should have been. The child had to be hospitalized." I felt sick. "What happened?" "There was an internal investigation. I was on shift that day. I saw Celine alter the chart afterward, changing the dosage to make it look like someone else's error." Marianne's eyes filled with tears. I tried to speak up, but I was reassigned the next week. The case was closed. The report said insufficient evidence of professional misconduct. It was signed off by the executive medical director. "Let me guess," Dylan said. "Dr. Kellyanne Green." Marianne nodded. "They protected her, and that little boy, he recovered, thank God, but it could have killed him." We gathered it all. Every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every document that proved the Green family wasn't the charitable, accomplished dynasty they pretended to be. They were frauds, liars, criminals, and in 3 days, at Soline's wedding, everyone would know. Uncle Gerald called me 2 days before the wedding. I almost didn't answer. I hadn't spoken to him in over a year. "Elvia?" His voice was older, tired. "Please don't hang up." "What do you want, Uncle Gerald?" "I want to tell you I'm sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't stronger. I'm sorry I didn't protect you." He paused. "Are you coming to the wedding?" "Yes." "Good." Another pause. "There's something you should know. After your grandfather died, he left me a box. He made me promise not to give it to you until you were 25, or until you asked for it, whichever came first. My 25th birthday had been last year. What's in it? Letters, dozens of them. He wrote to you every week after you left for college. He asked me to mail them, but Kellyanne, she found out. She intercepted them all. Told him you'd moved without leaving a forwarding address. He died thinking you'd abandoned him." I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "I'll bring the box to the wedding," Uncle Gerald said. "I should have given it to you years ago. But maybe it's better this way. Maybe you needed to be strong enough first." "Strong enough for what?" "To survive the truth," he said softly. "And to know that someone loved you exactly as you were." The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my apartment, surrounded by evidence, and thought about what I was about to do. Dylan had advised me on strategy. You could go public quietly, send everything to journalists, to the FBI, and let them handle it. Or you could do it at the wedding. Maximum impact, but also maximum risk. They could claim you're unstable, lying, seeking revenge. It could blow up in your face. "What would you do?" I'd asked. Honestly, I'd want to see their faces when the truth comes out. I opened my laptop and created a simple document. Not a speech. I wouldn't need one. Just a list of facts with evidence attached. The truth about Celine Green. 1. Academic fraud. Published research stolen from her sister, too. Financial fraud. $127,000 embezzled from family foundation using false identity. 3. Medical negligence. Covered up prescription error that hospitalized a child. 4. Inheritance fraud. Fake DNA test to steal $240,000 from rightful beneficiary. I attached screenshots, documents, witness statements, everything a person would need to verify the truth. Then I created a backup plan. If things went wrong at the wedding, Dylan would send this document to every major news outlet in Rhode Island, to the state medical board, and to the FBI. Either way, the truth was coming out. I tried on my dress one last time. Navy blue, fitted, elegant, not flashy, but impossible to ignore. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked like someone who'd survived. I looked like someone who'd won, even when everyone said she'd lost. I looked like someone who was done being erased. My phone buzzed. A text from Dylan. "Ready for tomorrow?" I texted back. "Ready. Remember, we're not there for revenge. We're there for the truth." "I know. And Elvia, I'm proud of you. Your grandfather would be too. I set the phone down and looked at myself again. Tomorrow, I would walk into Carlton House. I would watch my sister marry the man who'd humiliated me. I would sit in a room full of people who thought the Greens were perfect. And then I would show them who we really were. Not with anger, not with revenge, just with the truth. Because in the end, the truth was the only weapon I needed. June 18th, 2023. The morning arrived with the kind of perfect weather that felt almost mocking. Clear blue skies, gentle breeze, the smell of salt water and roses. Nature had decided to make Soline's wedding day beautiful. I stood in front of my bathroom mirror at 7 a.m., already dressed. The navy blue dress fit perfectly, elegant without trying too hard, memorable without being flashy. I'd done my makeup carefully, natural, polished, like someone who had nothing to hide. My hands were steady as I clasped my grandmother's bracelet, the one thing of value I owned, a gift from before everything fell apart. I looked at my reflection and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked strong, composed, ready. Dylan picked me up at 9:30. He was wearing a dark suit, looking every bit the respectable professional. In his car, we went over the plan one last time. "You have the flash drive?" he asked. I patted my small clutch purse. Inside was a USB drive containing every piece of evidence we'd gathered. "Right here. And you remember, we're not there to cause a scene. We're there to observe, to let them incriminate themselves if they choose to. The evidence speaks for itself." "I know. But if you change your mind," Dylan said, glancing at me. "If you decide this isn't worth it, we walk away. No judgment. You don't owe anyone this confrontation." I looked out the window at the passing landscape. Rhode Island in June was beautiful, green and alive, full of possibilities. "I'm not doing this for revenge," I said quietly. "I'm doing this because somewhere out there's another Elvia, another person being gaslit by their family, told they're crazy, made to feel invisible. And maybe if I do this, they'll know they're not alone. They'll know that the truth matters, even when everyone says it doesn't." Dylan nodded. "Then let's go tell the truth." Carlton House sat on a cliff overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, a historic mansion that had been converted into one of Newport's most exclusive wedding venues. White columns, manicured gardens, and the kind of old-money elegance that whispered rather than shouted. Cars lined the circular driveway. Mercedes, BMWs, Teslas. The Newport elite had come out for this wedding. Dylan and I parked and walked toward the entrance. My heels clicked on the marble walkway. With each step, I felt more centered, more certain. A woman with a clipboard stood at the entrance, checking names. "Elvia Green," I said. +1. She scanned her list, and I saw the moment she found my name. A flicker of surprise. She'd probably been told I wouldn't come. "Of course, Miss Green. Welcome. The ceremony begins in 30 minutes. You'll find your seats in the back section." The back section? Of course. We walked into the grand entrance hall. Crystal chandeliers, white silk everywhere, flowers that probably cost more than my monthly rent. A string quartet played softly in the corner. And then I saw him. Uncle Gerald stood near the windows, looking older than I remembered. His hair had gone completely gray. He was staring out at the ocean, his shoulders slumped. "Uncle Gerald," I said softly. He turned, and his eyes filled with tears. "Elvia, you came. You knew I would." He pulled me into a hug, and for a moment I was 17 again, hiding in the basement while he left sandwiches outside my door. "I have something for you," he said, pulling back. He handed me a small wooden box worn smooth with age. "Your grandfather wanted you to have this. I'm sorry it took so long." I opened it. Inside were letters. Dozens of them, addressed to me in my grandfather's shaky handwriting. "Dear Elvia, I hope college is treating you well. I think about you every day. You were always the bravest of us all." My vision blurred with tears. "He wrote every week," Uncle Gerald said, "for 2 years. He thought you never wrote back because you'd moved on, built a new life. He died thinking you'd forgotten him." "I never got any of these," I whispered. "I know. Callien made sure of that." His voice was bitter. I should have stopped her, should have done something. But I was a coward, Elvia. I'm so sorry. I closed the box carefully. You're giving them to me now. That's what matters. There's something else you should know, Uncle Gerald said, lowering his voice. The wedding. Zachary doesn't know about your history with Solene. The necklace, the blog, any of it. Solene told him you two were estranged because of normal sister rivalry. He thinks this wedding is her extending an olive branch. I looked at him sharply. He doesn't know she's lying about her credentials, about the plagiarism. He doesn't know anything, and Callien doesn't know that I know about the foundation fraud. They think all their secrets are still safe. He met my eyes. Whatever you're planning to do today, be careful. Cornered animals bite. I'm not planning anything, I said honestly. I'm just here to bear witness. Uncle Gerald studied my face, then nodded slowly. Your grandfather used to say that the truth has a way of surfacing, like oil on water. You can push it down, but eventually it rises. Dylan and I took our seats in the back row, just as Uncle Gerald had predicted. From here, I could see everything but be easily overlooked, the venue filled with guests. I recognized some faces, business partners of my father, donors to the foundation, members of Newport Society. Everyone dressed impeccably, everyone wearing their most polished smiles. Then the family entered. My father, Ishmael, looked thinner than I remembered, more gray in his hair, new lines around his eyes. He walked alone, his expression carefully neutral. My mother, Callien, was radiant. She wore a champagne-colored gown that probably cost more than my car. She smiled and nodded to guests, every inch the proud mother of the bride. When her eyes swept over the crowd and landed on me, she froze for just a fraction of a second. Then her smile returned, tighter than before. She didn't come over, didn't acknowledge me, just turned back to her conversations as if I were a mirage. The music shifted, everyone stood, and Solene appeared. She was breathtaking. Her wedding dress was a fitted mermaid gown covered in delicate lace and pearls. Her blonde hair was styled in soft waves, her makeup flawless. She looked like a princess from a fairy tale. She walked down the aisle on my father's arm, and I watched his face. He looked proud, yes, but also sad, like a man who knew he was playing a role in someone else's story. At the altar stood Zachary Morrison, tall, handsome, confident, the same man who'd humiliated me 5 years ago. He watched Solene approach with genuine love in his eyes. He had no idea who he was marrying. The ceremony was traditional, beautiful. The officiant spoke about love and partnership and building a life together. Solene and Zachary exchanged vows they'd written themselves. I promise to always be honest with you, Solene said, her voice clear and strong. To build our life on truth and trust. I almost laughed. Almost. Dylan squeezed my hand. I promise to support your dreams, Zachary said, and to believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself. The irony was suffocating. If anyone objects to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace, the officiant said. The room was silent. I stayed seated, silent. This wasn't the moment. I now pronounce you husband and wife. They kissed. Everyone applauded. Solene and Zachary walked back down the aisle, radiant and oblivious. As they passed our row, Solene's eyes found mine. For just a moment, her perfect smile faltered. She hadn't expected me to actually come. I smiled back. Small, polite, utterly calm. Her step hitched slightly before she recovered and continued walking. The reception was held in the back garden, overlooking the ocean. Round tables with white linens, centerpieces of roses and hydrangeas, champagne flowing freely. A live jazz band played softly as guests mingled. Dylan and I found our table, predictably far from the family table, tucked near the back. But that was fine. I could see everything from here. I watched Solene work the room, Zachary by her side. She introduced him to foundation donors, to my mother's medical colleagues, to Newport Society families. She was in her element, networking, charming, building her empire. My mother held court at another table, surrounded by admirers. I heard fragments of conversation, praise for the foundation's work, Compliments on raising such accomplished daughters, questions about future projects. All lies built on my stolen inheritance, my stolen work, my stolen identity. "How are you doing?" Dylan asked quietly. "I'm okay," I said. And I was. Strangely, I felt calm, centered. I used to imagine what I'd feel if I saw them again. I thought I'd be angry or hurt or scared. But I just feel sad, sad for what we could have been. Before Dylan could respond, someone approached our table, Solene. She stood there in her wedding dress, drink in hand, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Elvia," she said, "you came. I wasn't sure you would." "You invited me." "I did." She glanced at Dylan, then back at me. "Can we talk? Just for a minute?" Dylan looked at me. I nodded. Solene and I walked to a quieter corner of the garden, away from the other guests. "Why are you really here?" she asked, dropping the pretense. "I was invited to my sister's wedding. Why wouldn't I come?" "Don't play games. You've been silent for years. Why show up now?" I looked at her, really looked at her. Up close, I could see the tiny cracks in her perfect facade, the way her smile didn't reach her eyes, the tension in her shoulders. "Do you ever think about the necklace?" I asked quietly. She went very still. "That was a long time ago. 10 years. But you remember, don't you? Where you put it?" "Elvia?" "You hid it in your room, probably in a drawer somewhere, and you blamed me because—" I tilted my head. "Why did you do it, Solene?" Her jaw tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." My voice was gentle, not accusatory. "Just like you know you took my research and published it under your name. Just like you know about the money laundering through the foundation using my identity. Just like you know about the fake DNA test that cut me out of grandfather's will." All the color drained from her face. "I know everything," I said simply. "And I'm not the scared little girl anymore, so I'll ask again. Why?" For a long moment she said nothing. Then, in a voice so quiet I almost couldn't hear it, "Because he loved you more." "What?" "Grandfather. He loved you more than me, more than anyone." Her eyes were suddenly shiny with unshed tears. "You were his favorite. You, the accident baby, the one who wasn't supposed to exist, and somehow you were the one he chose. So you destroyed my life?" "I was jealous!" The words burst out of her. "You were younger, you did less, and yet he saw something in you he never saw in me. I worked so hard to be perfect, to be accomplished, to make them proud, but it was never enough, because you existed." I stared at her, and for the first time, I saw past the villain to the broken person underneath. "We were both victims," I said softly, "just in different ways." "Don't," she said sharply. "Don't try to understand me. Don't try to make this into some therapy session where we both heal. You have no idea what it was like being the perfect daughter, carrying the weight of their expectations while you got to be free." "Free?" I almost laughed. "Solene, they erased me. I spent 6 years believing I deserved to be invisible. And I spent 6 years being so visible I couldn't breathe," she shot back. "At least you got to leave. I've been trapped in this family's image my entire life." We stood there, two sisters who'd been turned into enemies by parents who should have loved us both. "It didn't have to be this way," I said finally. "Yes, it did," Solene said. "In this family, there's only room for one golden child. And I wasn't going to let it be you." Before I could respond, Zachary appeared. "There you are," he said to Solene, then noticed me. "Oh, hi, we met at the Vermont Summit, right?" "Yes," I said. "Congratulations on your wedding." He smiled, oblivious. "Thanks. And hey, about that day, I've always felt bad about how harsh I was. I was young and stupid. I hope there's no hard feelings." "Of course not," I said, my voice steady even as my heart raced. "Good, good." He turned to Solene. "Babe, they're about to do the toasts. We should head back." Solene looked at me, and I saw genuine fear in her eyes. "Elvia." "Go," I said. "Enjoy your wedding." They walked away, Zachary's arm around Celine's waist, her looking back at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Dylan appeared at my side. "What happened?" "She's scared," I said, "and part of me feels sorry for her." "After everything she did?" "After everything we all did to each other." Duh! I watched Celine and Zachary rejoin the reception. This family broke all of us. Some of us just broke in different ways. The best man gave a funny speech about Zachary's college days. The maid of honor gave a sentimental speech about Celine's loyalty and kindness. I had to grip my glass to keep from reacting. Then the MC announced, "And now, mother of the bride, Dr. Kellyanne Green." My mother stood, elegant and composed. She smiled at the crowd. "My daughter Celine has always been exceptional," she began. "From the time she was a little girl, I knew she would do great things. She's built an incredible career through hard work, dedication, and unwavering integrity." I took a sip of champagne to keep from speaking. "The Green Wellness Foundation has flourished under her leadership. She's helped countless families, contributed groundbreaking research to the field of mental health, and maintained the highest ethical standards in everything she does." Dylan's hand found mine under the table. "I couldn't be more proud of the woman she's become," my mother finished. "To Celine and Zachary, may your life together be filled with honesty, trust, and love." Everyone applauded. My mother sat down, basking in the admiration. I found myself standing. I didn't plan it. My body just moved on its own. "Excuse me," I said, my voice cutting through the applause. The room went quiet. The MC looked confused. "I'm sorry, we've finished the scheduled speeches." "I'm the bride's sister," I said clearly. "Surely I'm allowed to say a few words." All eyes turned to Celine. She'd gone pale. Zachary looked confused. My mother's expression was frozen. "Of course," the MC said uncertainly. "Please, go ahead." I walked to the microphone, my heart pounding, but my steps steady. From here, I could see everyone. 300 people, all waiting to hear what the forgotten sister had to say. "My name is Elvia Green," I began. "And Celine is right. We are sisters, though for the last 10 years I've been invisible to this family." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I don't usually speak up. I learned a long time ago that my voice didn't matter in this family. But today, standing here, watching everyone celebrate integrity and honesty and truth, I realized something. I paused. I matter. My truth matters. And maybe it's time people heard it. "Elvia," my mother started to stand. "Please, Mom, let me finish." I looked at her, and she slowly sat back down. I turned to Celine. "Do you remember the pearl necklace, the family heirloom that went missing in September 2015? Celine's face crumbled. "I was blamed for taking it. I was 17, and even though I didn't take it, even though I'd never touched it, everyone believed I had. That accusation changed my entire life. I lost my family, my home, my scholarship to college. I spent years thinking I deserved it." The room was completely silent now. "But I didn't take that necklace," I said, my voice strong and clear. "And I think, deep down, everyone in this family knows it. Because the real question isn't where the necklace went. The real question is, why did you need me to be guilty?" I pulled out my phone and displayed a document on the screen, then handed it to the MC to project. "This is the revised will of my grandfather, changed 1 month before he died. It removed my $240,000 inheritance because of a DNA test that proved I wasn't blood related to the family." I paused. "That test was fake. The lab was shut down for fraud. My mother paid to have it created." Gasps echoed through the crowd. Zachary stood up, confused. "What is she talking about?" I displayed another document. "These are financial records from the Green Wellness Foundation. For 4 years, they've been paying consultant fees to someone named Elvia Green. Except I've never been a consultant. The money has been funneled through an LLC owned by Celine." "This is insane," my mother started. "This is the truth," I said calmly. "And this," I showed the research paper, "is the work Celine published under her name. The work I wrote over 8 months and shared with her when she said she wanted to reconcile." Celine stood up, tears streaming down her face. I I didn't. Yes, you did, I said. Not cruelly, just factually. And you know what? I understand why. I understand the pressure, the expectations, the desperate need to be perfect. But understanding doesn't make it right. I looked at my mother. You erased me from this family because I reminded you of your own vulnerability. Because loving me meant accepting that you couldn't control everything, so you made me disappear. My mother's mask finally cracked. For the first time in my life, I saw real emotion on her face. Not anger, shame. I turned back to the crowd. I didn't come here for revenge. I came here because somewhere out there, there's another person being gaslit by their family. Another person being told they're crazy, they're lying, they don't matter. And I want them to know you're not crazy. Your truth matters, and you deserve better. I set the microphone down and walked back to my table. The room erupted. Zachary was demanding answers from Celine. My mother was trying to maintain composure. Guests were whispering, phones coming out, social media posts being written in real time. Dylan stood as I reached our table. Ready to go? Not yet. I turned to see Celine approaching, mascara running down her face. Elvia, she said, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And she wasn't performing anymore. This was real. The necklace, I hid it because I was jealous. The blog, I wrote it because I wanted to destroy you before you could succeed. The research, I took it because I couldn't create anything original on my own. Everything you said is true. I'm a fraud. I'm a liar. And I've ruined everything. Zachary reached us. Someone explain what the hell is happening. Celine turned to him, tears flowing freely. Everything she said is true. The plagiarism, the money laundering, all of it. I'm not who you think I am. You stole from your own sister? Zachary's voice was cold. I stole from her. I stole from the foundation. I stole from you. You're marrying someone who doesn't exist. Celine looked at me. Tell him. Tell him everything. But I couldn't. Because watching her fall apart, I realized something. This wasn't victory. This was tragedy. I'm sorry, I said to Zachary. I'm sorry you're finding out this way. I took Dylan's hand and we walked out of Carlton House. Behind us, I could hear raised voices crying, the sound of a perfect image shattering into pieces. And for the first time in 10 years, I could breathe. 3 weeks later, the fallout was immediate and brutal. Within 48 hours, the story had spread across Newport society. Video clips from the wedding circulated online. Someone had recorded my speech. The state medical board opened an investigation into Callieanne's role in the fake DNA test in the covered-up prescription error. Her medical license was suspended pending review. The IRS and FBI launched a federal investigation into the Green Wellness Foundation. Celine resigned immediately. The foundation's operations were suspended. Wellness Frontiers Journal retracted Celine's article. Her academic credentials were under review by the university, and Zachary Morrison filed for annulment before they'd even signed the marriage license. I didn't celebrate any of it. I just felt empty. Until the day Callieanne showed up at my apartment. I almost didn't answer the door, but something made me look through the peephole. My mother stood there and she looked old. No makeup. Gray, visible in her usually perfect hair. Tired eyes. I opened the door. May I come in? She asked. I stepped aside. She entered my small apartment, looking around at my simple life. No judgment this time, just observation. Tea? I offered, because what else do you do when your mother who destroyed your life shows up? Please. We sat across from each other at my small kitchen table, two women who shared DNA but little else. I'm not here to apologize, she said finally, because an apology would be insulting. Nothing I say could undo what I did. Then why are you here? To tell you the truth. The real truth. She wrapped her hands around the tea mug. When I was young, my mother told me that women in our family had to be perfect. Perfect looks, perfect careers, perfect families. Anything less was weakness. So I became a doctor. I married a successful man. I had a perfect daughter. She paused. And then I had you. Unexpected. Unplanned. After the doctor said I couldn't have more children. You were proof that my body had betrayed me, that I wasn't in control. And I hated you for that. The words should have hurt. Instead, they were almost a relief. The truth, finally. When your grandfather started talking about leaving you money, about how special you were, I panicked. Because if you were special, what did that make Solene? What did that make me? She met my eyes. So, I erased you. I convinced myself you were the problem, and I taught Solene to see you the same way. Why are you telling me this now? Because you deserve to know it wasn't your fault. It was never your fault. You were a child caught in the crossfire of my own insecurities. She set down the tea. I was raised by a woman who never showed me love, only expectation. And I did the same to my daughters, just in different ways. I broke both of you. I'm not broken, I said quietly. Not anymore. No, she agreed. You're not. You survived me. That takes strength I never had. We sat in silence. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said. I don't deserve it. I'm just asking that you know. I was wrong. About everything. She stood to leave. Mom, I said. She turned. Did you ever love me? Even a little? Her eyes filled with tears. I don't know if I'm capable of love, but I know I should have been. And I'm sorry you paid the price for my failure. She left. I didn't stop her. 6 months later, life settled into a new rhythm. I was promoted to program director at the mental health center. My salary doubled, not rich, but comfortable. I republished my research under my own name. Psychology Today ran a feature, Rising from Family Trauma, One Woman's Journey to Reclaim Her Narrative. I was invited to speak at conferences about resilience, about surviving toxic families, about the long road to healing, and I started creating content, short videos on TikTok and Instagram about narcissistic families, gaslighting, finding your truth. I called the series Erased But Not Forgotten. One video went viral, 2 million views in a week. In it, I told my story. Not the whole thing, but enough. The comments were overwhelming. This is my mother. This is my family. Thank you for putting words to my pain. I thought I was the only one whose family acted like I didn't exist. You gave me the courage to finally go no contact. Each comment was a reminder. I wasn't alone. None of us were. A letter arrived in December, handwritten, 5 pages. From Solene. I almost threw it away, but curiosity won. Dear Elvia, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect forgiveness or even acknowledgement, but I need to write it anyway. You were right about everything. I did hide the necklace. I did write the blog. I did steal your work, your money, your inheritance. And I did it all because I was terrified that if people saw the real me, they'd realize I was empty. I spent my whole life performing, being the perfect daughter, the accomplished professional, the golden child. But underneath, there was nothing. No real thoughts, no real achievements. Just a hollow shell desperately trying to convince everyone, and myself, that I mattered. You were always so authentically yourself, even when they punished you for it. I envied that more than you'll ever know. I'm in therapy now. Real therapy, not the performative kind I used to recommend to others. I'm learning that hurt people, and I was so hurt I could barely breathe. I don't know if I'll ever be a good person, but I'm trying to at least be an honest one. I hope someday you can think of me without hate. I don't dare hope for more than that. Solene. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer, not to forget, but to acknowledge. She was on her own journey now. It wasn't my responsibility to guide her. 1 year later, I sat in my favorite coffee shop working on my laptop, a new research project about healing from family trauma. My phone buzzed. A text from Uncle Gerald. Your father wants to meet. No pressure. Just thought you should know. I stared at the message for a long time. Ishmael Green, the man who'd stood by silently while his wife destroyed his daughter. The man who'd driven me to college and told me to make better choices. Part of me wanted to ignore the text, to leave him in the past where he belonged. But another part remembered. He was a victim too, just a different kind. I didn't respond immediately. I went back to my writing. Because here's what I'd learned over the past year. Closure doesn't come from other people. It doesn't come from apologies or reconciliations, or even revenge. Closure comes when you stop giving other people power over your peace. My mother had destroyed me. I rebuilt myself. My sister had stolen from me. I created more. My family had erased me. I wrote my own story. And that story wasn't about them anymore. It was about me. About every person who'd been gaslit, invalidated, made invisible by the people who should have loved them most. I closed my laptop and looked out the window at the sunny street. My phone buzzed again. This time, a notification. Another person had shared my video with the caption, "If you've been erased by your family, please watch this. You're not alone." I smiled. Small, genuine, free. I used to think revenge would feel satisfying. But this feeling of purpose, of helping others, of being unapologetically myself, this was so much better than revenge. This was healing. This was freedom. This was me, reclaimed. I picked up my coffee, gathered my things, and walked out into the sunshine. Behind me, the empty chair held my journal. On the cover, in silver letters, a single word, reclaimed, and beneath it, in my handwriting, a story for every person who refused to stay erased. If you're reading this, if you've stayed with me through this whole story, thank you. Thank you for bearing witness to my truth. Maybe you have a family like mine. Maybe you've been the scapegoat, the forgotten one, the one who was gaslit until you questioned your own reality. If so, I want you to know something. You're not crazy. You're not too sensitive. You're not the problem. And you don't need their apology to heal. You don't need their acknowledgement to be valid. You don't need their approval to build a beautiful life. The truth will set you free. But first, you have to be brave enough to speak it. It's been 2 years since that wedding. My mother lost her medical license. Celine is rebuilding her life with humility I never thought she'd possess. The foundation closed permanently. And me? I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I never got the family I deserved, but I got something better. I got myself back. So if you're out there hiding in a basement, eating alone, believing you deserve the silence, please know this. You deserve better. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to take up space. And when you're ready, when you've gathered your strength and your evidence and your courage, I hope you'll do what I did. Stand up. Speak your truth. And reclaim your life, because no one can erase you without your permission. And you're done giving permission.